It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, welcome to our daily Euros live stream on the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast. Today we'll be previewing tomorrow's fixtures, which are England versus Czech Republic and Scotland versus Croatia, the conclusion to Group D. Very exciting for all you people in the UK. At any time, if you guys have any questions, comments, as you know, please send them throughout the stream and we will be sure to get to them. But firstly, the most important part of the podcast, I get to introduce two fine gentlemen who have just, they're the hardest working men in the business. I'll start off with the first hardest man in the business. Hardest man, Jesus Christ. Hardest working man in the business. George Gamble, the man, he does copper, he does Euros, he does MLS. I mean, what else do you want to do? Maybe come over here and do the A-League for me.
Oh, things haven't got that bad yet, mate. But no, yeah, happy to be back. Looking forward to diving into the action. Got some interesting games to discuss here. But yeah, can't wait to get back into it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you back on, mate, and sticking true to the podcast. He's been here every day so far. Neel, Shah, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Looking forward to it.
It's good to see you, blokes. It's good to talk about today's fixtures first. What did we make of it all? I mean, I haven't seen any of the games yet, but just looking at the results, to me, it's crazy. Ukraine and Austria, all they both needed was a draw, but Ukraine have lost the plot. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what happened in the game. Someone tell me what happened.
Well, I mean, fundamentally, they were just awful. I think that's all there is to it. I mean, I don't really think it needs too much analysis. Austria were brilliant. Very surprised, obviously, looking at Austria throughout the tournament so far. Really took the game to Ukraine, fashioned a lot of chances, and obviously took one of them. Brilliant result for them. But yeah, Ukraine, a huge opportunity missed for them, and you could see at the end when they're sort of clapping their fans for the support. Andriy Shevchenko he looked absolutely livid with his side, and all the other team, obviously the players in that side, looked extremely despondent. But it's their own fault. End of the day, I just couldn't believe the way they approached this game. And Austria, brilliant game plan, took their chances, and all fair play to them.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Denmark game there, Neel, the Danes. I mean, I feel like they're everyone's second favourite team after everything that happened at the start of the tournament. How was watching that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, quite literally, a lot of people's second team. Like I had them in a forecast. I think quite a few people had them in a forecast. It was almost like a no-brainer. So they pulled it around, and I'm really delighted for them. I was rooting for them. I sort of backed them quite heavily today. I just felt like they were going to get the job done. It was a bit worrying first half. Sort of Russia were sort of carving a few little openings, and they didn't look quite at it. But then, once that first goal came, they were superb. So really, really pleased for them. And I mean, you never know. Happened in '92. Greece did it in 2004. Who knows? Maybe it could be their year.
What a story it would be. All right, fellas, we will get into today's games very soon. I'll just answer some of these questions. Gambling fan, yes, I'm very sorry. We're very late today. We just got a little bit excited about the Danes there. We've got, sorry, I can't read these. My screen's too small sometimes. Manohar Man says England match, both teams will not score any goal in 15 minutes in the first half. And that bet is at 1.33. That's what he likes. Murray,
I mean, that's just going on what he said there, because sort of in my stats, I was going to go through it with the game, but generally England have a good sort of first half record, and the Czechs sort of have a stat, I think, where it's kind of between the 30th and 45th minute where they tend to score more goals. So I mean, it's a play. It's very short odds, but good luck if he's going to do that.
Marius reckons England will lose tomorrow. Love that, mate. Let's hope for it.
Mm.
England
Nice and
2-0, maybe 3-0 from Leon. England is running just in 2 Pistons. Is that an inside joke that I'm missing there, fellas, or are you guys
No,
confused?
I think it's a
Second gear.
mechanics metaphor, isn't it?
Okay, sorry, Marius. And I mean, everyone's just having a crack at England. I think England match both teams will not score any goals in 15 minutes and place a bet on corners over 6.5. So Manahor, man, he's come out hot. He's got plenty of bets there for us. So why don't we get onto it? England versus Czech Republic, huge game here. And just a disclaimer on the video, I've completely forgot to say this the last couple of times, but myself, no one else on this channel is a financial advisor. This is just educational content aimed at improving your knowledge about sports betting. There is a risk of losing money on sports betting, and what you do with your money is completely up to you. So please be responsible. England versus Czech Republic. I will get up the odds on my screen. You've got England at a high of about 1.6 at Mansion Bet there, but a bit lower everywhere else. Draw is at 3.75, 85, something like that. And the Czechs are at as high as 8.5. I don't know if you guys can see that flash on the screen. That's really irritating.
Yeah.
You can. So I'll just take down my screen and hopefully that goes away. So both, I should probably show the group outline. Sorry, hopefully my screen thing doesn't do that again. It's not. That's great. So, you got the Czech sitting at the top there in 4 points, tied with England, and then Croatia and Scotland below. Both these teams are most likely going to go through to the qualifying stages, no matter what the result is. But what makes this a very interesting game is the potential next round opponents. So second in Group D, which is England at the moment, versus second in Group E is the next stage, which at the moment is Slovakia, but we're thinking that that's most likely going to be Spain or Sweden. But first in Group D, which at the moment is Czech Republic, could be England. They will play second in Group F, which is France, Portugal, or Germany, probably. So the funny thing is, both these teams, it might work out better for them if they finish second, which makes this a really, really interesting affair. I'll go to you first, George, because we haven't seen you for a while. What are your initial thoughts about this and how it might play out given the whole advancement scenario?
I think it might be another drab affair, really. After what you've kind of described, it's almost going to be like, no, you have the ball. No, you have the ball. That's the kind of game we're expecting it to be. But for me, I can see this game having a lot of changes in terms of team selection. Because Gareth Southgate, you can't really afford another poor performance. Otherwise, I think things will start to get a little bit toxic. But at the same time, if we win the game, you argue that we hamper ourselves slightly going into that next round. It was interesting that he came out and said that the reason for Jadon Sancho's exclusion is he doesn't want to overwhelm him, doesn't want to throw him in at the deep end. He's not had much tournament football, which I think is the most ludicrous statement I've ever heard.
What the hell?
It makes me question him as manager even further. This is a player who's got creativity in abundance. He's got that flair. He's got talent. He's played in massive games for Dortmund, won them trophies in finals, and been a standout player.
He's played bigger games than most of the people in the squad, probably.
Exactly. And also, you're telling me that if Norway, for example, went to a World Cup, they'd be like, well, no, Haaland's not played much tournament football, so we're gonna ease him in. No, he's their best player. He's going to play. And Jadon Sancho is a sort of player that we've been crying out for in some of these games. That creativity, that width, that ability to get at attackers. That was one thing I was excited about. I mean, you look back to not long ago, I think it was in qualifying, we scored on 30-odd goals in 8 games, adopting that 4-3-3 formation. But now we get to the tournament. It seems Southgate's more concerned with not wanting to take any risks and just kind of keeping it safe with those 2 holding midfielders. So for me, I do think there will be changes to this side, particularly after, media and fans alike have been kind of pressuring him to make those changes. And for example, taking Phil Foden off in that game against Scotland, despite his creativity and I'd argue is one of the better players there. You have someone like Sancho on who's on the same wavelength as Foden, then it can only be a good thing. But yeah, looking at the game itself, before that game against Scotland, England had scored in 7 straight games. The last 3 games at Wembley have all been won by scorelines of 1-0, so they're always relatively low scoring. And the other thing with England, the odds that I was looking at earlier on today, obviously I think they've changed slightly now, but they're around 1.57, which means the expected chance of winning is 64%. But when England have been priced up similarly, they've actually won 84% of those matches. So yes, it's easy to kind of look and say, right, England are probably more likely to win this. But then, as you said, the permutations going into this one, a draw suits both sides. And just to go back to what you said, both of these teams after today's results are definitely through to the next round regardless, which makes it even more likely that, now that it's just definitely fighting out for first or second, there's no danger of dropping into that third position. England are in that second spot and it is an easier tie for them. It all depends, I think, on if Gareth Southgate wants to win this group, go out with a bang and think, well, we're going to play the good teams at some point anyway. So it's hard to second guess for me, in my opinion. It all depends on what kind of route he wants to take. Does he want to face those hard teams early on and try and get the win to finish top of the group? Or is he happy to just kind of keep possession, dominate the ball, not really exert too much energy trying to get that win and breeze into the next round against one of the, easier sides? It's a very difficult one for me. Looking at the Czech Republic, they've made a brilliant start to Euro 2020, haven't they? Expertly picked off Scotland in a game that they were quite fortunate to win, in my opinion. Obviously, that worldy goal from Patrick Schick that we've spoken so much about. And then obviously they earned that draw against Croatia, who, in my opinion, I thought Croatia were extremely poor in that game, but obviously we'll speak about them a little bit later on too. But, the Czech Republic, they defeated England in qualification for this tournament. And they've got nothing to fear, really, on Tuesday, I'd say. But under 2.5 goals has landed in 4 of their last 5 away trips. And they've never beaten England at Wembley. So for me, I don't see England getting beat here at all. I don't see that happening. Whether England won't go on and score a hatful of goals. But I also see it being relatively low scoring, considering the fact that there's nothing to play for. A draw suits both sides, in my opinion. So, yeah, the England or draw double chance and under 2.5 match goals at 1.84 stood out for me. That was on Betfred, but the odds have slightly dropped to about 0.8 roughly, I believe. So, and I was just kind of looking at sort of if you want to look at why I'm going with that. A lot could be read in that game with Scotland in terms of how poor England were. But the Czech assistant, Chitri, himself said, they're not reading too much into that result. It was kind of like a derby, and each of those games has their own kind of specific characteristics. There's also only been 3 goals in England's last 4 games at Wembley Stadium overall. And I just don't think there's going to be the intensity there where we're going to see goals. So for me, yeah, under 2.5 goals was a little bit short on its own. But England, whilst they've been really uninspiring going forward, they've been relatively strong or lucky, depending on which way you want to look at it, at the back. And also, if you've got Maguire potentially coming back, Southgate might opt to give him some minutes to get him fit for the next rounds. So, yeah, I don't see us losing the game, but I just don't see an influx of goals. So, for me, the standout bet was England or draw and under 2.5 match goals at 1.84.
Yeah, I've just got up some of the over-under markets on everyone's screen there, but I kind of think that it does. I know it seems illogical for England to, go out there and try and get a victory, or because they're through to the next round anyway, and I guess they don't really need to go out and try hard to win, and also if they finish first, then they might get a harder run to the final. But on the other hand, don't you think that England really need a good performance, heading into the finals, Neel? Because I obviously am not living in England or the UK, but I assume the pressure on that squad right now is quite immense, and that they need some kind of big victory to kind of shift the narrative a bit and everyone get behind them a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. It's become a bit toxic, really, because with everything with with the stuff with the knee before kickoff, and again, sort of the team being booed. I remember watching Harry Kane's interview just after the game, and he could barely hear whoever was interviewing him because the boos was so loud after the Scotland game. So it's not a kind of great situation to be in, and especially with it's the youngest, I think the youngest or second youngest squad in the tournament, and that makes a difference. People say that gives a bit of vibrancy and that youth has no fear, but you've seen with the Turkish as well. In this kind of pressure situation, that's not easy. Not having that experience of these kind of things is difficult. For me, I mean, I definitely agree with with George's thoughts on this. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the prices though. I looked at this game from a lot of angles, and it was kind of a struggle to find anything. I think if it's that difficult to try and squeeze a bet out of it, generally it's for me anyway, that it was best avoided, but I could certainly see it sort of playing out that way. I think it also depends on team news. I'd want to see what kind of team he goes with, because at the end of the day, again, if both teams are through, this is a chance to just have a bit of fun, actually play some expressive football, actually go with an attacking lineup, use these players. Like England have got a fantastic crop of attacking players, one of the best they've had in a long time. And why not? I mean, the Sancho thing, I agree with. I don't really understand what it is, if it's a personality problem. The stats that he has for Dortmund are incredible. And
I heard that he averages like a goal and an assist every 80 minutes for Dortmund, which is just outrageous.
I mean, he's so creative. And so, you're kind of missing out there. I think because of the situation with Bobby Gilmore as well, I think Mason Mount will be out for this game, so that'll be a loss. But then that paves the way for Grealish to come into the side, hopefully. I don't think he's sort of necessarily the saviour for England, as a lot of people make out. He's an excellent player, but there's still other sort of structural problems in that England team. And that's the thing, really. If they're going to kind of have to unleash the shackles at some point. And if it's another kind of uninspiring performance, fine, they might get Sweden, in the next round. And again, in the World Cup, they did well against them. But I really don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit wary of it. Even with this Czech team. I mean, that price, I think, was it 8.6, so 8.5 around that for to win the game. I mean, I think that's a huge price.
It is a big price.
They've got. I mean, Schick is absolutely on fire. In the form of his life, his confidence is sky high. It only takes a little defensive lapse. We know England. I mean, generally they have defended well, but again, Croatia sort of barely tested them. Scotland. I mean, actually, I did think Scotland had a few little. They had a few chances. They could have scored. So maybe the Czechs might take advantage of that. So I mean, this is one on the match odds I'm kind of steering away from. I want to see what the team news is. If Southgate does go for an attacking team, I mean, it's big odds, but then I'd like to look at the overs just in case if that's the way they're going to go for it. They're going to have a bit of fun. Slightly different situation, but maybe a little bit like the Dutch Macedonia game. Hopefully we could see a good game, but I think it's unlikely. That's not
what do you think about that, George? That they kind of need to show what they're worth heading into the finals because of the immense pressure that they have on them.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent, and as Neel said, which I agree with, it's a chance to kind of go and express yourself. There's nothing riding on the game anymore apart from who finishes first and second. I just think for me, knowing kind of and seeing the way that Gareth Southgate likes to manage a side, he won't see it as that. There's still opportunity, obviously, there to either win the group or finish in second. So he may still opt to, he's already said, obviously, Harry Kane's going to lead the line, which to me sounds like he's still going to go with a tried and trusted 11 rather than an experimentation. It might, but I think we will maybe see the likes of, a Grealish or something like that because he's still been using him. But in terms of out and out changes, going all out for a win and changing a system to obviously get more goals, I don't see him wanting to do it. I think he'll just want to keep things tight. And if they go through a second, obviously if they pick up the win, fine. But I think he'd be more than happy with the draw as long as they can keep a clean sheet. He might use it as an opportunity, as I said, to give Maguire minutes, but I don't think that he feels that pressure to, oh, well, everyone's on my back, I need to pick this player, because he's never done it in the past. There's been plenty of calls for people to say, oh, you should be playing this player, we should be doing that, why aren't we doing this? And he's not really changed it. He's still kind of gone with what he believes is right. So, and I think, my problem with Southgate is I think he's an excellent media man, but I don't think he's a great manager. For me, it's been quite clear for some time you should probably have two. One who's actually a good manager and one who's great with the media, because you can't be good at both, in my opinion. So no, I don't think he'll feel that pressure at all, if I'm honest. And it wouldn't surprise me to see a couple of changes, but overall the same sort of spine of that team.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's going to be very interesting, but are we kind of concluding, before I get into some of the comments here, that England may be a little bit too short, considering the scenarios the scenario that's laid out here, with the fact that England don't have to win and that a draw will just maybe be the nicest result for both teams?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the case. I mean, the odds, on England to win are far too short, particularly because for me, whenever you're picking about, I'm sure you guys are the same. It's not just which team is better. There's a lot more factors to it. It's motivation. What do the team get out if they do get this win? How badly do they need this win? And neither of these sides need the win that badly anymore. Obviously, depending on if their aim is they want to finish top, then obviously the story changes slightly. But and you look at the previous sort of encounters, particularly at Wembley, they've never beaten England at Wembley. It's been under 2.5 goals in 4 of their last 5 away trips for Czech Republic. And I just see this being a drab game. It wouldn't surprise me either a goal either way or a 0-0 draw. It honestly would not surprise me.
Yeah.
I think it would peter out.
I couldn't agree more. Just looking at some of I can get up the table on the screen, just looking at some of the goals differentials here, you just can't see, England, risking it all to come first, and then, losing out to the Czechs. And then next thing they know, Croatia or Scotland win and they're lost out on goals differentials to them. So it would, considering the way Southgate sets them up and they've been playing in the tournament so far, they don't exactly strike you as the most risk-taking team, do they? So,
no.
But I mean, we'll see what happens. Stranger things have happened. So your bet for this one, Neel, was double chance England and draw and under 2.5.
That was my one, yeah.
Oh, sorry. And Neel, did you have any bets, mate?
I'm not going to put a recommendation out there, but if people want to sort of give a few things, I'm looking at it from a trading angle, sort of trading unders in the first half. I think it'll be a kind of slow, dull game, but there might be sort of some mug money in the market, just sort of pushing that price a little bit, expecting goals or thinking somehow England are going to, go out and win 5-0. Not going to happen. And I wouldn't put it past you to 0-0 half time. I think I saw in the comments, what's it, AJ Sports Bets?
Yes. Is this the one? Yeah, I can go through. We can go through these now. Yeah, so AJ Sports Bets backed England and under 2.5 goals at 3.0 in odds. What's everyone's thoughts? I guess most of us are kind of liking this. I mean, it's pretty similar to your bet, George, except it's not double chance.
Sorry, I was reading through the odds there. Remind me of the question.
It's on your screen too, mate. If you
backed England under 2.5 goals. Yeah, I wouldn't. Thing is, I don't think England lose this game. Hence, I went with a double chance at slightly lower odds. But I think it's a big ask to ask them to go out and win it. Of course, they could run rampant. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I just think with the permutations and what's on the line, they might be happy just to play out this draw, just to get a bit of fitness for players who haven't maybe made a couple of appearances. And I think if you're going to pick for a team to win, then I'd say England over the Czechs, because in my opinion, I mean, obviously I'll go on to it shortly, but I feel like the Scotland game, they're a better and tougher side than the Czech Republic, really, in terms of the chances created and particularly the goal XG that they create. So, I'd lean towards England if anyone was going to win this. I just feel like it will be a drab game, petering out, that nothing will really happen because there's nothing on the line.
Yeah.
What I'd say as well is, I mean, you could do. I would still maybe keep the 0-0 on side, So, you could play something similar and just do 0-0, 1-0 England or 2-0 England, maybe split your stake that way, just to cover yourself, again, it was George's suggestion as well. I'm not sure. I just think England are too short for this. I think the pricing on the Czechs, I'm not going to be backing against my nation of birth. It's just not a nice feeling to win a bet against England. So, I wouldn't be doing that. But if I was a neutral, to be honest, I like that price on the Czechs is quite big. And I'd be tempted by that, or at least as a trading angle, maybe to lay England or back the Czechs and just kind of trade out if they do score an early goal.
For anyone that loves a mug bet, this is probably the most enticing thing I've seen so far. 0-0 to be 10s at Victor. Like, I think that's probably priced too high, but that's just my opinion.
It tells you a lot as well, doesn't it? It's to be somewhat expected at that price.
Yeah. All right. Croatia. Tony says Croatia to beat Scotland, Sweden to beat Poland, France to beat Portugal. We'll see what happens, mate. Limerick for Liam says England will probably play France in the quarterfinals or the semi-final anyway. What is the point of playing for a draw? Sweden are a good team as well. Well, I guess the other point is that if they do lose, let's just say they try and win the game against Czech Republic, and they somehow go down to the Czechs, then they're in a bit of a precarious spot there, because then, Croatia or Scotland could win, and next thing they know, they might be finishing third. So that would probably be the reason why it's maybe worth for them to play for a draw. AJ Sports
I was going to say, I just think it allows them to get further into the tournament. It allows the players to be sharper as well, if they can obviously have not an easier tie per se. All the games are going to be tough, but a more favourable draw. You'd much rather play Slovakia or Poland or something like that, rather than one of France, Portugal, or Germany straight from the off. You're going to have to play them at some point anyway. Of course you are, but it's further down the tournament when you might have a little bit of momentum. You want to get as near to that final as you can, and you're always going to take a more favourable draw than a very hard one straight from the off. I completely agree. You've got to play them at some point, but it's better to play them further down the line, in my opinion.
Yeah. AJ Sportsbet says Kane to score anytime at 2.3. What are our thoughts? I kind of assume
is
you
that
guys...
any time in the game, any time this month?
Yeah.
If it's any time this month, then that's just no chance of coming through.
It's not been looking good.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've listened to a lot
He
of
might
people.
well do it. This might be the game he turns it around, but just I wouldn't be backing him at that price. And I love Harry Kane. I'm a huge fan of his, but he's just...
All right, that'll be enough from you, Neel, mate. Actually, come back, Neel, because we've got someone says, "Wow, Neel, what the f happened to your Barnet?"
It's the stress. It's the stress of Saturday. All those win to nils just going against me. Just my hair's gone now.
Fell off in the bath, didn't it?
Is that a word for hair?
Yeah, yes.
Barnet is the whole do. Like, what's going on with your Barnet?
Yeah, right. All right, Leon, England has to show their quality. I wouldn't be scared of Spain. Germany to win to 0. We'll talk about that tomorrow, Hugh. You're getting a bit keen there, mate. Tony's back. He says England are above Croatia regardless. So, yeah, my mistake. I'm not very good with this whole progression thing. But even if Scotland beat Croatia by a decent bit, then they could overtake England. Yes, thanks, guys, making me look like an idiot. Italy will be the tournament winner. Jeez, this is just a lot of stuff.
Speaking of that one, Italy will be the tournament winner. Did anyone tell me someone saw Daniel Sturridge's tweet where he said, I think it was yesterday he tweeted, Italy will be the dark horses of this tournament. A team that's had about 30 clean sheets in a row and has won it obviously how many times before. Yeah. A dark horse.
3-3.
Talk about bad takes.
Oh, classic. All right. The rest of them are just bagging me, I think. British lingo. Yeah, or whatever. All right, let's move on. Scotland and Croatia. I will get the odds up on the screen for people. Croatia, 2.35 at MansionBet, but lower everywhere else. Scotland, you can get at 3.2 at a few places, and the draws at about 3.8. a disappointing tournament, you would have to say, for both these sides so far, but a win for either team will probably mean qualification to the round of 16. It seems like 4 points is the way to go to get through to the next round. Scotland have been Scotland probably been the more impressive side out of the two so far this tournament, holding England to a draw and deserving a little bit more against the Czech Republic, whereas Croatia were beaten on XG by both England and the Czechs. My first question to you, Neel, would be: Are you shocked to see Croatia this heavily favoured? This seems a little bit similar to the Czech Republic game. I thought that this would be more of a pick'em kind of game.
Not necessarily. I mean, they have been very poor, and they're a side in decline, but they still have a lot of quality in that side. So if it does click, you look at the teams man for man, and they are a superior side to Scotland. With no disrespect to Scotland, they're I think they've been a bit unfortunate lately, but Velocity just posted value on Croatia, potentially, but that kind of relies on them having a game and having a performance. They haven't really shown up so far. They do struggle, and I think against a side like Scotland, that they're not ideal opponents for Croatia, because they will be kind of quite aggressive. They will be quite physical. The kind of game plan they used against England, I think would also be quite effective. And I think maybe people would assume that, Croatia would boss the possession in this game. But actually, Scotland, they do have a useful midfield. I think they can kind of crowd them out and frustrate them. So, it's a tricky one. I mean, I wouldn't be going for them at that price, but I can definitely see why they're favourites in this game.
Okay. George, your thoughts on this one, mate?
Yeah, well, obviously it's absolutely massive game for them, isn't it? Obviously both of them know that only a win's going to be good enough to qualify. And yeah, I think Scotland have played really well in both games. Just obviously they haven't managed to pick up that win yet. They've not managed to score yet, but I think you can read a lot into that. On the other side, you've got Croatia. They had to rely on that fantastic Ivan Perisic equaliser to spare their blushes against Czech Republic. Looking at Croatia, back in Croatia, the fans are disgusted with the manager Dalic, and it's hard to believe that they can play any worse than they have so far. They've been abysmal, in my opinion, as we've said before, an absolute shadow of the 2018 side that we saw. They are favourites for this one, priced up at, you said, I believe, around I've got 2.25, but I can't help feel it's due to Scotland seeming sort of like the minnows. They've not scored yet, and Croatia being obviously having that individual talent and being one of the former strong footballing nations. But let's not forget, they've only won 2 games of their last 11, and that was at home to Malta and Cyprus. Teams that they should be beating, and they're not really anything to write home about. They've also failed to score in their last 3 away matches, losing them all by 1-0 scoreline, so they have been quite tight. They've also failed to score in previous 2 competitive head-to-heads that have been held at Hampden Park, that ancestral home of Scotland, if you will, where they drew 1 and lost 1. But across this whole competition, the 2 games that they've had, they've only registered 1.61 expected goals, which is just so bad. Whereas compared to their expected goals against of 3.13 over those 2 games, it just shows you how many chances they're conceding compared to the ones they're creating themselves. And for me, I am leaning on the side of Scotland on this one. I'm going against the grain somewhat, I think, and sort of looking at the odds. When the odds are around 2.2 for a Croatia win, the expected chance of winning is 45%, but they've only won 34% of those matches when priced up around those odds. Looking a bit further into Scotland, they've never lost to Croatia in the 5 meetings they've actually had. But they are outsiders in this match, priced up at 3.2, which I think is quite generous. And like I said, yet to score a goal, and they do need to address that. But their XG over the 2 games, 3.03, suggests it should even out, and I think they'll get on the score sheet here. My one issue with Croatia, particularly what I thought going into the game against England, I thought they'd really struggle to contain our pace, our movement, our ability to drive at defenders. Obviously, it's not the way our sort of game plan went, but nevertheless, the deciding goal in that one came from a bit of intricate play and that through ball that they just couldn't contain. They're slow, they're brilliant technically, but it's whether they've got the legs and the energy to keep up with the Scotland side. I know Billy Gilmore's going to be out for this one, obviously through COVID. but you've still got the likes of John McGinn there, who is an absolute battle axe. He's an engine, box to box, full of energy, full of legs. And this whole Scotland team has got that in terms of, just energy and abundance. And I think Croatia might struggle to contain that for the whole 90 minutes. And momentum does seem to be on the side of the Scots. And in my opinion, they couldn't have picked a better opponent to have. Who's someone who's off form, playing in their final match where they need to get the win to go through. I think Croatia are perfectly built for them to surprise the odds and go against that. And how many times this tournament already have we seen a couple of shocks and a couple of upsets? And I just think Scotland have the energy and the legs to completely overpower this Croatia side. They've been abysmal, in my opinion. They're not creating the chances that Scotland have. You look at Scotland against the Czech Republic. I remember saying to Neel, it was almost twice the XG they generated compared to Czech Republic. Couldn't score. Then when they played against us, I'd argue they had some of the better chances. Yes, that John Stones one head off the post, but Scotland fashioned a good few chances themselves. And I just think they could get the better of this back line of Croatia, of an Asian squad. So, my pick for this one was Scotland double chance and under 3.5 goals at plus 120. And the odds are dropping to around 2.17, I believe you can get on that now. But yeah, although I feel there's going to be chances here, Scotland do struggle to score. I don't think Croatia don't make that many chances, so it could be a tight one for me. So I don't see there being 4 or more goals in this game, but I think Scotland come out of this with at least a draw. It might not be enough, but I still don't see them getting defeated at Hampden Park in front of their own fans by this Asian Croatia side, in my opinion. So yeah, and also I went with Croatia to beat the Czech Republic. I thought similar lines of what people are thinking. Croatia, they've still got star quality in that side. They kept England at bay for a good 50 odd minutes. And I thought Czech Republic have just come off a high against Scotland and were about to experience another low. And they didn't do it. They were awful yet again. And I just don't see a lot changing. With everything going on back home, the pressure on the manager, I think there's something inherently wrong here in terms of the squad and the way they're playing. And I think we've seen the best days of Croatia, particularly within this squad. So for me, I want to be on the side of Scotland. So yeah, Scotland double chance, under 3.5 goals. The odds are dropping around to about 2.17, and that represents value to me.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, man. And I think another thing that people haven't really talked about is that Czech, if I'm not mistaken, Czech Republic and Croatia both have to travel back and forth after every single game because of COVID restrictions. Is that right? And if so, like that's just, I know it hasn't affected the Czechs at all, but Croatia, this is the third game they've had to do it. And like you said, George, they're coming up against a team who are hugely energetic, and they've got one of the greatest home crowds of the tournament behind them too. So I feel like that's another factor you can add in for the Scots there. Have you had any bets here, Neel?
Yeah, and going on what you said about the travel, it's not, they're not too far to travel, and it is a factor, but I think it's a bit overstated because I think that was an issue for Switzerland and their group, kind of having to do these trips to Baku and Rome. But they managed to kind of pull it together in the end. The bet I had for this one, again, kind of pouring over the stats, something that stood out for me. It's not a bet that I normally tend to do because generally there's quite a high margin on these kind of things. But it did stand out. So it's Brozovic to get booked and also to be the first player booked. So sort of going on a run of sort of games this season and sort of recent, I think the last 10 internationals, he's got a 40% record of picking up bookings, and similar to what George has mentioned in terms of potentially this midfield not having the legs, being able to keep up with Scotland. I could see him picking up a yellow. The referee whose name escapes me, Rapellini. Is it Rapellini?
Rapellini.
Yeah, is a referee in this. He does like a card. So I quite like that. So 4.5 for him to be booked. And, if you want to boost that a little bit as well, I'm going to have a little small play on him to be the first player booked, which is 13s at the moment. But that would probably be my only play. And again, I'm going to watch it to just see how it's going. Sorry, I haven't been much used today. I haven't got many bets, but it's just one of those days.
It's all right, mate. No, it's all right, mate. Just log off, mate, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Lots of comments come through here. this is where's my favorite? Oh, this is my favorite on here. Yeah, Marius. It will be fun to see England go home and Scotland not. I mean, sorry, fellas. I'll be a bit nicer. I know you guys are very sensitive when it comes to England. But yeah, have we got anything else to say about this one, George? Or are we? I can't remember what your bet was double chance with Scotland, but under 3.5 goals. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it is.
Very good, fellas. I guess that's it. I mean, it's very strange to call it quits already, but it's there's only 2 games tomorrow, but we will be. I think tomorrow there will be 4 games to go through, which would be the remaining games in Group E and F. So don't worry, we'll be back for a longer one tomorrow. Just a few comments. The Jixon says Scotland 3-1. Che Adams to score twice.
Brave.
Very brave. Sorry, mate.
I was just going to say good luck. That'll be a nice payout.
Very. Got a feeling England will struggle tomorrow from the 90s. No offense, I'm Romanian and my team is at home. Jarnell says very quick one today. Tomorrow better make up for it. Oh, geez, sorry, Jarnell. Sorry to disappoint you, mate. If you send through some questions, maybe I can keep these guys on a bit longer, but at the moment I can't. All right, how about our best games for tomorrow so we don't babble on too much? I'll start with you, George, mate. What's your best bet for tomorrow?
It's got to be the Scotland game. I think everything is kind of riding on it. Both teams need the win, so that it's going to be high intensity. It's going to be a fun game to watch, as opposed to England. A, because it's England, but B, there's nothing riding on it. So for me, my favourite bet is going to be from the Scotland game.
Love it, mate. And what about you, Neel? I mean, I don't think you've had any bets, have you?
I'm not going to claim this. I'm not going to claim this as mine. But what Tony said in the comments, I definitely think that's the case for the Croatia-Scotland game. Just to kind of lay the draw, you could do that at the beginning. I'm going to look at that, and again, if it's tight late in the second half, I'm definitely going to be having a play on that.
All right, love it. And the moment everyone's been waiting for, you've all been waiting for my mug bet of the day. Let's go with, we're going to parlay, geez, I'm American here. We're going to go correct score 0-0 in the England match. And we're going to parlay that with a Scotland victory. I'm not sure what that's going to pay. That'll be like 30 to 40 in odds. And honestly, have the bankroll on it. And I'll see you all in Croatia. We'll go for a nice little cruise around Croatia. I'll shout it all.
New York, yeah.
We'll
all on Denise at Bet365. Cheers, Denise.
Yeah, if they pay out. Got some more comments come through here. Yeah, I mean, Janelle said, I'll let Neel hit the hay. He looks knackered. Yeah, you need a rest, mate. He's also said, love all the streams you do with Trademate. Really doesn't get the attention it deserves. That's very kind, mate. Very kind. Well, on that note, why don't everyone give the stream a like? Show a friend. That's always helpful. Subscribe to the channel. All those things help. The 90s don't think he likes my bet. He says that should be 100 to 1, mate. Well, come and talk to me tomorrow, mate, when I'm a millionaire. England under 2.5. Geez, I'm really aching this stream out and talking a lot of shit. So why don't we finish this? You can follow George at CGeorgeGamble on Twitter, and he's so good that he's got 2 channels at George_CGG. You can also, I don't know if it's too late now, you can follow his Copper America tips, which has been a great follow so far. And you can find Neel at MyBettorLife on Twitter, and his blog is mybettorlife.com. Next preview, as I've mentioned a couple times, will be tomorrow, and we'll go through the final games in Group E and Group F. But yeah, anything else from you fellas, or we'll wrap it up?
No, I was just going to say, cheers for making me sound like the JJ Okocha of sports gambling. So good they named me twice. Cheers for that.
Anytime, mate. Thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure you do a quick rate and review. Do all the things I said before. Give us a like. Subscribe to our podcast, whatever you want. Have a bit of fun and just share the love around. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talked about today or weekly on the channel, start a free week trial of Trademate Sports and start your value betting journey. Gentlemen, I believe I'll be seeing both of you tomorrow, which is just sensational. And I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Cheers for having me again. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
All right. See you.